And at the end of the day, you always have to remember, like, you're an expert in this field for a reason. Like, you got hired for this position for a reason, and you're an expert, and you're the one that's supposed to bring the expert advice. And I think that can be, at least for me, that can be challenging when the client's like so emotional and so invested into their brand, and they're like, oh, but this, and it's like, how do you bring them down and tell them, hey, I hear you, but that plan obviously didn't work.
Not fighting emotion with emotion. It's logic versus emotion. When a customer is emotional, then you bring logic to them. Like, I've been telling people no since I've been running my business for almost 6 years. I've been telling people no for almost 6 years. But I've always had that personality where no is going to come out of my mouth and somebody is going to know that up front. If they don't know that I'm saying no up front, then they're going to be saying yes to everything when they ask me for something. If they know I'm going to say no up front, then they careful with what they ask me.
Welcome back, you guys, to the 1% Better Everyday podcast. My name is Jasmine.
My name is Matthew Cohn.
And today we are going to be talking about, so for today's episode, I wanted to build a little bit off of the episode that we had last week, just doing hard things. But I think that there's just so much that we have to like unpack and talk about. But at the beginning of every episode, we always like to shout somebody out. So for this week, we wanted to go ahead and shout out Rosa Valentina. So she does listen to us on Spotify. She actually watches us on YouTube, and she's actually one of my closest friends. But she's always commenting on our podcast and just always showing us so much love through the podcast. So I always encourage you guys to either go watch it on YouTube, go listen to us on Spotify. If maybe you can't watch it on YouTube, we're trying to get it on as many platforms as we can. I think I'm also trying to get it on Google. I told you that I'm in the process of that because I think there's like an application that you have to do. But anyways, you guys, the links are down below. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. But let's get into the past week. How was your week, babe?
Past week or weekend?
Weekend.
Weekend was amazing. Great weather. We finally hit 100 degrees.
Oh yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Yeah. We hit 100 degrees. I went to the pool like 3 times this weekend. It was just super hot. Did some golfing, but had a really good weekend. This weekend taught me that as long as I'm consistent waking up early, like, and packing 5 hours worth of work, I can get so much stuff done and have so much time for myself. So
I've been trying to tell you to wake up at 5:30 for what, the past year, the past 6 months, and I'm so proud of you. I'm happy for you, and that's the difference. I will always root for you. You will always make fun of me. But my week was really, really good. I think my weekend was really, really good. Something I want to get into today's topic, and I don't want to get too much off topic, is just like this weekend was really good. It was relaxing. I got to wish my mom a happy Mother's Day. I'm actually going back at the end of May to Ohio to visit her and just spend some time with her. What else? And yeah, just relax. And let's get into today's topic because I think it kind of goes with just how my weekend was. But something like I was just processing and thinking about over the weekend was just how much our life has changed, you know, because that's something that we were talking about is like, even a year ago, we were in a completely different house, and we made a podcast about it a couple months ago, how, you know, we had roaches, we had crickets, and it was literally horrible. You know, it got us to where we are today, don't get me wrong, but it was horrible. Like, I would never go back and live in that house or apartment, but
we had to go through it.
Yeah, we had to go through that, not just me. But it brought me to a good point, and just something that I was thinking about this weekend where, you know, things are always going to get hard, and that's something that we talked about in the last episode, is how do you go through hard things, and, you know, how do you navigate those things? Because sometimes things will just pop out of nowhere, and you have to, like, learn how to keep going, right?
Yeah.
But I think this was, like, the first time in a long time where, again, not that I want to get comfortable, but I finally felt like I wasn't in survival mode anymore. And that's something that me and my friend were talking about this weekend, where we kind of had like a different perspective. And I want to get into it with you, but do you think that people put themselves in survival mode, or people don't know that they're in survival mode until they're out of it?
I don't know what that means.
So survival mode just means like, oh my God, my friend could explain it so much better, but basically, you know, what we were talking about is like, for us, survival mode, and anybody can leave their comments down below because I'm sure that there's like a correct definition for it. But just our perspective on survival mode is when you're going through all the motions and you're doing all the things because you literally just need to survive. Whether it comes from like a financial aspect where you're just trying to make money because you're just trying to pay bills and that's the only thing that you are capable of thinking about, or whether you're coming from a survival mode, meaning you just want to have peace around you. Like you just want to have like a safe environment around you, because some people grow up and they don't have safe environments, or, they always, think about kids that are always placed in foster care systems and then they go to another home. Like there's so many factors and just things that are constantly moving in their life that somebody would call that survival mode. But then again, everybody has a different perspective on it. So are you a service-based entrepreneur that provides some kind of service, but you don't know how to create content in order to convert someone from following you into a paying client? I'm going to tell you exactly what to post in order to start generating more leads, attract high-paying clients, and get more DMs than you can possibly answer. I will help you how to find your niche, how to find your target audience, and craft offers that will attract top buyers every time you go to make a post. Text me content to 513-516-7332 to learn more on how you can get mentored by me for only $99 a month. Did that answer your question?
Not really, no, because I feel like every day I'm in survival mode. You either let the world happen to you or you actually attack your goals. So I don't get it.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's a different perspective, and we want to hear your guys' comments and opinions and thoughts we want to hear your guys' opinions.
If you don't survive, you're going to die. So you should be in survival mode every day.
Yeah, just comment down below. But because I want to hear your guys' perspective, but I mean, let's look up what is the definition of survival mode? What is the definition for survival mode? But while I'm looking it up, I think for me, what is the definition of survival mode? I think for me, what survival mode meant, at least to me growing up, was that I always felt like there was just so many things in my life that I could never control, or that there were just so many things that, not that they were out of my control, but I mean, in a way, like I necessarily couldn't really change them, or I couldn't even take ownership over my own decisions until I moved out of my parents' house.
Right.
So after there, I wasn't in survival mode anymore as far as like my environment goes, because I feel like I was like in a safer, peaceful, if that's a word, a more peaceful environment, because I did move into my own house. But I think I still had that financial aspect of survival where I just had to pay bills, and we just had to pay bills, and let's get into the definition. But survival mode is a mental and physical state where your body and brain prioritize immediate safety and basic needs like food, shelter, and protection over long-term thinking. And so that's what I meant. I think that
if you don't eat and survive, then that doesn't make any sense, because you should be, that's your long-term goal anyway. If I don't survive for this day, I can't survive the next day. Like, so that's contradictory. That's contradicting, that definition.
So, and let me break it down, because there's a difference between survival mode and growth mode. And survival mode operates from fear, stress, scarcity. I think for me growing up, I was always operating out of fear. I was always operating out of scarcity that we're not going to have enough money. We're not going to have enough, food on the table. I didn't have like a healthy environment. So once I got out of my parents' house, and I was in my own house, then the survival
still
mode.
In fear.
I mean, correct. The survival mode was just different. It was the fear of like, how am I going to pay these bills?
That's what the definition is. That's the definition of survival mode.
But what I'm saying is, versus now, I don't feel like I'm in that survival mode as much, because I used to be worrying more about money. Now I feel like, this is just my perspective, but we have built knowledge and skills that we can use to not always have to be worrying like, how are we going to make the next paycheck, or how are we going to make money?
You should always be worried about that. If you're not making money every single day, then you out of touch with reality. You should always be in survival mode no matter what. Because if you're not making any money, if you're not fearing of not having any money, then you can't take care of your family. And I think that's just, honestly, I think you boiling it down to men versus women. Women women don't really think like that. I fear not having money every single day, so I'm always in survival mode.
See, But that's what I'm saying. It's different because I think for the longest time in my life, like I was always in survival mode where I even told you this here, like you can only, at least for me, and this is just my perspective, I feel like you can only be in survival mode for so long before it will literally burn you out and
Not really, no.
it's just going to burn you out, at least for me.
Yeah.
I feel like if I kept being in that state of, again, this is my perspective only because everybody has a different perspective. But if I kept being in that scarcity mode of like going to 9 to 5 or how am I going to get the next paycheck or just clocking into a job, which, well, hold on, that for me was survival mode because I didn't know what my skill was. Like I didn't know what is some kind of knowledge that I can bring to someone to make money off of what I'm good at.
This is how I know this.
Versus now, which I feel like I'm more in growth mode because now I know what skills people can pay me for. Now I know how much my knowledge is valued at. And that's where I want to get into where for today, I want to get into that topic, how I think when you're a business owner and you're an entrepreneur, you're so self-aware of one, who you are, what your business does,
Everything that's going on around you.
but also how valuable you are, not only your skills, but financially. And that takes me back to like when you know your worth, you intimidate people. And that's where I was trying to get at is I feel like the difference between now and last year is last year I was definitely more in survival mode where I didn't have the capacity to even think about like the creative aspect of my business. I was so burned out that I was just like, oh, well, like just hustle to hustle, just work to work. Instead of now that I look at things differently, now I'm like, okay, if I'm going to work, I'm going to work smarter, not just to be working. What's the point of working? Just to work.
So you telling me right now you don't fear not having money?
I do, but it's not.
So you're in survival mode. Look at the
mean,
definition of survival mode. It literally says in fear of not having money. And you're also growing at the same time, which is your growth mode. So again, that definition is a contradictory. I don't believe in survival mode. Go out and get what you need to get no matter what and hustle as a family. And that's another reason why I'm glad you brought that up because this is the year that I realized that I'm always right about everything that I always push forward and everything that I say to people. Because I always get, today I had somebody reach out to me and I'm not going to say what happened, or say who it was, but they was like, damn, you was right this whole entire time. And I'm like, I know I was fucking right the whole entire time. My thing is because I'm always because I'm always in survival mode and because I'm always in growth mode, I'm aware of everything that's going on around me before everybody else, right? Not only that, is I also sense things that are going on. And the problem is when I tell people about stuff that's going on, they always catch it too late. And because I'm always in survival mode, I catch it beforehand because I'm in survival mode, but I'm also growing as a person. So again, that's just a contradictor.
I was gonna say, I think that's how we're different sometimes because I think for me, like because I was so much in survival mode, I couldn't thrive. And so like even one thing of the definition that it says is like the main difference is that survival mode keeps you alive, growth mode keeps you thrive. And this is just my perspective, but I think that women, because one of the things that I told you that I love about you is that you know how to trust your intuition. And it's like, you have this thing where it's like you're just right. Like 3 months or 6 months from now, like what you say ends up being right. And I think for me, like one of my biggest struggles, at least for women, and this is just my perspective, is that we're so emotional and we're so empathetic and we're always trying to see the side to everything that I think for me, like, because I was so much in survival mode, I was always going off my emotions. And that was one thing that I had to learn this year. It's like when you're in survival mode, at least for me, I couldn't make clear decisions. And now that I feel like I'm not in much survival mode, I feel like I'm more thriving where I'm making decisions with more clarity. I feel like my intuition is stronger because now I understand where you're coming from. And I think that's just something that we just disagree. What is it? Like disagree, agree to disagree. Because I don't think either of us are right. I don't think either of us are wrong. I think our perspective is just totally different. And it impacts how you make decisions. Because what's been happening lately, my intuition has been getting stronger. Like, what did I say 2 weeks ago? And it became true. So I think, there's just different stages in your life and you have to like learn how to trust your intuition is the biggest thing. But that's where I wanted to take today's topic where, again, I think that when you start to trust yourself even more, you make clearer decisions, but also like your value. And that's something that you've always told me since the beginning is that, put yourself first in every single aspect, whether it be, putting yourself first as a mom, whether you be putting yourself first as a friend, as a wife, as a partner, as a friend, as a human being. You have to put yourself first, because if not, you're always going to be
people pleasing.
What's the word? Like, you're always going to be going to the flow of what everybody else wants. Does that make sense? I mean, yeah, people pleasing. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today, because I think that, right now, just to be honest with you guys, at least I'm going to be transparent and honest, is that I'm going through one of those transitions where I'm growing again in my business, and it's making me reflect a lot within myself. And it goes back to those boundaries that we talked about. I think that when you have stronger boundaries, people kind of look at you like you're mean, or you're too harsh. But I mean, it's what got us as far.
Yeah, then people come around and be like, damn, you was right. And I'm like, yep, I know I was right. So.
Oh, and that's something I wanted to touch on today's topic. Obviously we talk a lot about entrepreneurship, but I think the beauty about entrepreneurship is that, and we might have to make a whole part two, because I know we're getting off on another topic, but I think the beauty about entrepreneurship that I was saying before is that it teaches you how much you're worth in terms of your skill. And so like today, for example, like one of the conversations that I was having is like, why is it so important for us, like as entrepreneurs, to be in these meetings when we know that meetings kill productivity? And at the end of the day, I was looking at my day and I'm like, what did I actually get done? I got one thing done.
Fucking nothing.
And it was like, I was right. Like I was right at the end of the day. Like there's no point of me being involved in
time
these meetings. But it goes back to me being more strict with my time management. And then two, learning how to speak up for yourself in these organizations, in these companies, and especially as a freelancer entrepreneur. Because I think that, at least for me, that has been like a challenging part, where it's like, how do you meet the client's expectations, but then also advocate for yourself? And at the end of the day, you always have to remember, like, you're an expert in this field for a reason. Like, you got hired for this position for a reason, and you're an expert, and you're the one that's supposed to bring the expert advice. And I think that can be, at least for me, that can be challenging when the client's like so emotional and so invested into their brand, and they're like, oh, but this. And it's like, how do you bring them down and tell them, hey, I hear you, but that plan obviously didn't work?
Not fighting emotion with emotion. It's logic versus emotion. When a customer is emotional, then you bring logic to them. Like, I've been telling people no since I've been running my business for almost 6 years. I've been telling people no for almost 6 years. But I've always had that personality where no is going to come out of my mouth, and somebody is going to know that up front. If they don't know that I'm saying no up front, then they're going to be saying yes to everything when they ask me for something. If they know I'm going to say no up front, then they're careful with what they ask me.
Matt, I need your help growing my social media audience.
All right, guys, if you need help growing your social media audience, make sure you text 602-390-7002. Once again, it's 602-390-7002.
Yeah. And also something that I wanted to, you're right about that. But something I wanted to bring up that me and my friend had a conversation about yesterday is, I think the beauty in today's world is that you can say no and not have to explain yourself. Like, that was something that I had to have a conversation with someone today, and we kind of brought it up. It's you are allowed to say no and not have an explanation. Like, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. And that's something that me and my friend had a conversation about this weekend, where I think at the end of the day, and you kind of said this a couple of years ago, is your life is like a video game. We're literally playing we're playing GTA.
GTA for real, yeah.
And you get to dictate when you wake up, what kind of food you eat, where you live, how much money you make. But I think when you tell people that, it's almost like they can't believe it, because we've been so conditioned to follow these systems that we grew up with. Go to school for 8 hours, go to a 9 to 5, work for 8 hours, go to college or be successful. And it's like, how do you change what has been implemented for years and years as a system? It's challenging.
Yeah, it is challenging, but it's also doing the hard things. That's how you challenge the system, is by doing the hard things. If you're not doing the hard things and you're not doing the hard things consistently, then you're gonna let hard times fall upon yourself.
And one thing I wanted to bring up really quick, because I know we were talking about survival mode, that I just thought of is, I think as women, and this is just my perspective, like I said, please feel free to comment down below, because I want to hear your guys' opinions and thoughts and questions and what you guys feel. But at least for me, like, I know I'm very, very emotional, and I feel like when I'm in survival mode, at least for the past 2 years when we moved to Arizona, just moving and going through so many transitions. Like, don't get me wrong, I still had an amazing time. I learned so much. I grew into who I am today. But I think for me, what I realize is that when I'm in that chaotic stage, or I don't even want to call it chaotic stage, but I think when I'm in that, which, like you said, survival mode can come in different levels in every stage of your life. But I think for me, when I'm super in that survival mode, I almost can't be myself, and I'm not as happy or giggly or bubbly. And that's something that I even noticed the past 3 months. It's like we've been going on more dates, like we've been having more fun. And I don't want to say that I'm out of survival mode, because you're right. There's always going to be like that fear of like, where is the next money coming from, or just trying to make sure you're safe, because everybody's nervous system is always going to be wanting to be, what's the thing, like say fight or flight. Like it's always going to be operating in that. So I'm not saying it's ever going to go away, but I think you have to
it shouldn't never go away.
You have to learn how to be self-aware. And if you feel like you're in that position as a woman where you've been so much in survival mode, where you feel like you can't even focus on yourself, it's time to take a step back and ask yourself, what can we change? Because I know for me, like when I was in that survival mode, and this is a disagreement, I don't even want to call it a disagreement, but a thing where we just had different perspectives. Me and my friend, where we were talking about, like you said, is survival mode something that just happens, or is something that you put yourself in? And I think looking back now, I was definitely the victim. I was definitely the victim of my own survival mode stage, because I probably wasn't making the best choices, or I put myself there for a reason. But
yeah, and as a man, you should always be in survival mode, because what I've learned in the past 5-6 years is that this shit can all go away the next day.
yeah,
And if you not in survival mode, you gonna be in shock because the shit is gone. And that's the problem, is that people don't have, what is it called? A sense of urgency. And that sense of urgency comes with being in survival mode. And if you don't have a sense of urgency, then you're gonna be sitting in shock when some big shit happen to you. Mm-hmm. You don't know what to do when you lose a job. You don't know what to do when you lose a parent or lose a kid. You just stuck, and so you stuck in that mode because you don't have a sense of urgency to get shit done when the bad shit does happen.
Mm. But you brought up a good point, is that, and like I said, you have to do what works for you. Because some people might hear your perspective and they're like, I totally agree with you, that works for me. And then some people might hear my perspective and they're like, no, I actually operate the way that you operate. And that's the beauty of life. Like, everybody operates differently. But I think the most important thing that you said is, like, tomorrow, like the day of tomorrow, anything could happen. And I think sometimes we fear so many things. Like, we fear like, oh, what if we lose your job, or what if this happens, or what if that happens? I know for me, I had a lot of fear growing up, or even till last year, even till yesterday. Like I'm always that person that has so much fear of like, okay, what could go wrong, or what could happen? And it's like, that could happen tomorrow.
You should be thinking like that.
Nothing in this life is ever guaranteed or promised.
Facts.
So you always, again, this is just something that worked for me now at 27 years old. I had to learn that instead of hustling and operating out of the survival mode, which obviously wasn't working for me. I mean, it got me to where I am today, but for me, I couldn't sustain that, because I feel like I was burning myself out and I wasn't showing up as the best partner, as the best person. And I had to take a step back, put boundaries, and ask myself, if you were in thriving mode, if money wasn't a concern, if you could create anything in your mind, what would that look like? And I think when you ask yourself that question, you can almost work backwards. Like, and that's something that we always talk about, is stop worrying about the how are you going to get there. What do you actually want in life? And then work backwards. What can you do in order to achieve that? Like, if we want a bigger house, then that has to be one of our goals, and then figure out, well, how are we going to achieve to get that bigger house? If we want that car, like, just make it a goal and then worry about how are you going to get that car,
I feel like you don't achieve your goals if you're not in survival mode. Like, you're just sitting there, you're just stagnant. It's like, if you don't go into that mode, then you just gonna sit there and not have a sense of urgency to get stuff done. Mm. Like, you gotta be hungry. If you wanna achieve anything, you have to be hungry for it.
I think it's different, and you're right. You know, and I would love to go into part 2 because I know our camera's about to shut off, so we have to get off here,
It's
you guys.
not, but all right.
But I would.
We ain't got no cheap ass cameras no more. It's a $10,000 setup, and she talking about the camera gonna shut off.
But listen, I would love to go. I would love to go into
This
part
is
2.
not 2019 anymore when we got them shitty ass Sony cameras that cut off every 29 minutes and 30 seconds because the camera's so old. It can continue rolling.
Correct. Like I want to
See, and if I wasn't in survival mode, we wouldn't have this shit. We wouldn't have none of this shit if I wasn't in survival mode.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to backtrack. I don't think that. I think there's levels. That's what I'm saying. Like once you get to a place where you're like you're not survive, like you're not.
Go back to the definition of survival
What I mean by
mode.
survival mode, okay.
It literally
So
says.
it says it's a mental and physical state where your body and brain prioritize immediate safety. Stop
Facts.
there.
Immediately.
Okay.
Every single day
That's
I'm
what
worried
I'm
about
saying.
safety.
When your brain isn't so concerned, like let's just say about the physical, because for me it was a lot about the physical, my environment, right? Then it's going to go to your mental. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think the mental survival mode, like if that's even a word, ever goes away. Because in your mental mind, like there's always going to be something.
So you always in survival mode.
That's what I'm saying. There's levels. Like sometimes you can be 90% in survival mode where you're like, oh, it's like financial, it's mental, it's physical. Or sometimes you can just be in survival mode where maybe it's just one aspect. It's just financially. But agree to disagree. Yeah. Well, that is the end of today's episode, you guys. I hope you guys liked it. Please let us know down in your comments, thoughts, opinions down below. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to listen to it, share it with a friend, listen to us on Spotify, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Peace.
Bye, you guys.